Hello, welcome back to the podcast. This is Noel for those joining us for the first time. And for our regulars, I want to say thank you so much. Your listenership, your support, sharing the episode means a lot. In a bit, you'll be hearing from one of our very esteemed guests, Dr. Henry Olamiju. In any event, we hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you so much for stopping by. Now enjoy the show. I don't. Is it your first podcast ever?
Yeah, this is the first one I've been invited to.
Really? Nobody has started into that yet. Lucky to be your. We're so happy that we're your first. Wink, wink. Anyways,
privilege.
Yes.
Tolani, it's paining me that you can't see me because you need to see.
They just go out and come back. Okay.
How I bowed my head in shame.
When?
Yes, I'll go out. Where you said we are first, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Get your mind out the gutter.
I live there. Why am I getting my? That's where I live. That's my permanent residence. It's where I need more grace. It's where. How will I not be in the gutter? Is that not showing that I need more of Jesus? I have to start from a foundation so that Jesus can walk. So, you guys know how I always tease Ayomide about not having friends. I'm like his only friend and he never really brings anybody to the podcast. But guess what? Today, he's finally able to confidently do an introduction of our guest. So, Ayomide, all yours.
So today we have a guest that I'm very glad that we get to have. So this is someone that when Tolani said to me that how about we have this guy on for our next guest? It was like I didn't even think about it. It was an instant yes. Also, I realized that this sounds weird because you already know who the guest is, but we're gonna pretend. Because by the time we're doing this, you'd have seen the guest on the poster. No?
Sure that.
But you don't know who the guest is to us, so we're going to tell you. So basically, we have today Henry Olamiju, a man, a minister, a medic. He grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. He's the first of three boys.
Same here too.
Which, by the way, is one less than me. And not that anyone asked. He graduated from the same school as Tolani and I actually, which is where we all got to know each other, but at different times and in sort of independently, which is University of Lagos. And he studied medicine as well. And he also, like me, works in the NHS, not very far from me actually, as I found out recently. And he works as a medical registrar. Over the last 12 years of his medical practice, he's worked in medical missions. He's held all sorts of leadership positions, going back 26 years. He likes to talk, as you will soon find out, which one of the things we love about him. And the things he likes to talk about are a lot. But they include personal discovery, developing human capital, politics, war histories. Don't ask me about that one. Relationships, from marriage to dating, and faith, and Christian faith. And he loves photography. He loves speaking. kind of said that already. He loves to write and to travel. And he's married to his sweetheart from uni, which Inola. So yes, welcome. Enroll.
Yes, welcome, Harry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
That's a great introduction.
Thank you, Mo.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I've looked forward to this since you invited me, and I'm like I've seen a few of your podcasts, and I'm like I hope I can follow this act so far. So yes, I'm happy to be here, and like I said, just for everyone to know, this is my first podcast. So yeah, excited much. All right, thank you.
Yes, I was saying that was a very great intro. It felt like we're not even reading it. That's what I meant by that. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't feel thoughts.
Thank you for your approval. Oh, great magnanimous one.
I guess maybe we can just get started.
Right. So,
I was just going to ask him about what life was like growing up in Lagos. I know you've had a lot of experiences in two worlds, like first in Nigeria and then in the UK, but I always like to start with the first, the foundational questions. What was life like growing up in Lagos and all of that kind of fancy stuff?
Okay. Yeah, Lagos is, for who you need to live in Lagos to understand it, right? I know different capitals of the world or different commercial centers of different countries have their peculiarities. But Lagos has this feel, has this vibe, has this spirit that it's around it. So I grew up in Lagos in the 80s. And then, of course, so getting involved with, getting to know the different things around politics, government, life, schooling, education, and stuff like that. I think my very first 10 years, I probably just like every other child growing up in Lagos, school was about maybe 10, 15 kilometers away. And then, of course, even though my parents always gave me transport fare, we always, walked home. And I remember, I think it was today or yesterday I was thinking about it. And I found that, we used to walk about an hour and a half or 2 hours to get home, having spent the transport fare sometime in the afternoon or during break or something like that. And then, of course, it was with a few other people who were going my way. It was I lived in Surulere, lived and schooled in Surulere. And then you have this group of people who you don't talk to during school hours, but when it is time to go home because you're all following in the same direction, then we used to all walk home together. And then then you pick up. That's where peer pressure became my first introduction to peer pressure, in the sense that we used to. And I don't let anybody know this. I wish this does not come out if I have to run for political space. We used to go press bells, doorbells, back then in Surulere going home. So we would, I'm sorry, Mo, you're shaking your head already, but I didn't start it, and I never really started it, but then there was this particular chap who was called Samson, who was so bold. He was much bold. I think he was probably older than every one of us. But then they would press doorbells. And Surulere houses, very old estate kind of, but they were public government buildings in a sense. So as we're going back home, someone would just go press the bell and then we'll run because the guys are coming out. Never got the lever to actually press the bell, but I was a lookout guy. I was the one who found out the bells, and I was the one who says they are coming. I was the one who knew where to run to first. So, but I will always be the one to say this house has a bell and the bell is here, and that kind of a thing. So, that kind of happy-go-lucky, childhood, go from home to school. My father would drive me to school in the morning, on his way to work, but in the afternoon I would go back home, walk. So it was very interesting, very cool, very calm. I remember the Surulere of the 80s. One particular incident comes to mind. I was one of those days I decided to go to, take transport home And I stopped taking transport just because it was always very long queues. And then there was still this war against indiscipline. We're coming out of the Buhari Idi Agbon era, and so people used to sit queue up in at bus stops. It was a thing. It was regular. You all line up there and stuff like that. And so one of those days, I ran out of the line because I saw my boss come in, and I thought, oh, this queue is so long. I need to, make my way across the, where people were lining up. And I didn't know there was a taxi coming. Lagos taxis back then, yellow with black stripes and stuff. And then this taxi I was just about to pick up a passenger or drop the passenger. I don't remember which one specifically. Just was about to start taking off from that, bus stop, and I just ran into the taxi. And for a split second, I wasn't sure if I should fall or not. I wasn't sure. I was like, okay. So I fell. But immediately I fell, I just kind of got up and I have to cut my bus. Immediately I fell. There were like maybe 50 odd adults lining up waiting for their own buses. Someone just grabbed me. I'm like, no, excuse me, no, I have to get my bus. And they just grabbed me and said, no, you can't go. You have been hit by a car. You need to be taken to the hospital. So we had one person volunteer to take me with the taxi driver. There was a policeman who was there as well, who said, you know what, I'm going to follow you. So the three of them, took me to a health center in Sibyl, and then they treated me, gave me tetanus injection, cleaned my wounds, and mandated the driver to take me home. So this guy took me home. Others dropped on the way. The policeman dropped on the way, the adult dropped on the way, but this man took me to my house, dropped me. So this was probably around 3:00. My parents they were government workers, and they would get back home. They usually would get back home around 4:30. He asked me what time my parents would come back, and I said 5:00 or 4:30 thereabout. So he said he would come back at 5:00. And believe it or not, this happened, all right? 5:00, this taxi driver was in my house to explain what happened to my parents, to tell them that, he was sorry, and this and this and that, and that was it. Now, imagine that same Lagos in the 90s, now in the 2000s, and where we are now. You can imagine that kind of thing happens, but it did happen at that time. And, so that was the Lagos I grew up in. It was a Lagos that everyone watched out for each other.
Yeah.
There was some kidnappings here and there. You hear it faintly, but, you could, I as a 6-year-old, thank you. You remember that? And then I remember as a 6-year-old child, my primary one.
I think it was just passed along to kind of warn kids to be careful. Yeah.
That was the Lagos I grew up in. And then, over the 90s, there was structural adjustment program. Things went from good to bad. People left the country. SAP, people left the country. And then because, my parents used to have this newspaper, my father used to come up with newspapers. So I was someone who grew up reading very quickly, not always. I used to read newspapers from probably age 7, but then it was just the cartoons and stuff initially. Then I started picking up on what's happening in government, Then there was this Gideon Okaku. I can remember all those things, Nigerian history, kind of followed it up.
Growing up initially was a lot of fun, was exciting, was interesting, with Christmas and all that.
Yeah.
But, from the 90s, late 90s to the 2000s, it wasn't exactly what, you would crave to, you thought it was going to get better, but it didn't.
Then went to school I went to school in Kaduna, but came back to Lagos, because I kind of just messed up. Let me just put it that way. I lost every possible thing, every possible possession.
Were you ringing bells as well there?
No, I wasn't. No.
So you've told us about your growing up in Lagos, your escapades, and the wonder, the mixture of, the hard realities and the islands of kindness and goodness in the middle of all of that. But then you moved to the UK, which, we already talked about in the intro. So I'm curious as to, obviously, they're very different countries. And I know that where you're living now is not the kind of city that Lagos was, even though it's a city in its own right. So I'm curious as to just what would you say was the most surprising or unexpected thing for you since you've been here? Well, first of all, what was the most surprising thing when you first came? But now that you've been here for a while, what is the thing that surprises you? So, like, I'll give you an example. Something I'm not still able to get over is the fact of how of how long it takes for the sun to set in summer. Like, I still find myself thinking, there's time.
Yes.
And then I look at
I knew you were going to say that. You're such an old man. I knew you were going to say that. That's why I started laughing before you even said it.
Yeah. So for me, when I came, so I arrived in London first. I got a job in London, so that's where I started from. And then what was most surprising for me was the accuracy with which the transport system was planned. The accuracy. It was baffling, so when I first came, I think for the first 1 month that I came around, I could time that, this, and it's more like that in London than it is, where I live right now. Because back then, London, that your bus is coming for 8:43, it's coming at 8:43, or the train was coming for 5:02, it's coming for 5:02, that kind of a thing. I could time myself, and it seemed so perfect that I wondered, why are these people? Why is this thing so, pitch perfect? How have they arrived at this? And why can't we do that back home? And for the first 1 year, I always asked that question: why can't we do this back home? It was always a recurring question. Why can't we have our waste bins properly disposed of? Why can't we have, a place, a museum that reflects, our rich history? Everywhere I went and I saw something new, I asked, why these guys don't have two heads? They're basically exactly like us. Why can't we have things exactly this way? And these things are not even rocket science. They're not very challenging to do. But how is this happening that we do? So that was what was the most challenging or the most baffling thing for me.
Do you have an answer to that question yet? I'm curious.
I do not have that answer. Every time I stayed on that question, if I linger on that question, I kind of shed tears, and it's happened over and over again. I remember the very first October 1st I spent here. I went home, and in the bus, I was listening to a speech that Mandela gave during his first presidency, about how Nigeria helped them achieve, get out of apartheid. And he said very glowing words about our country and our leaders. And I left that bus shedding tears. I'm not saying I had tears. I actually left the bus and I was walking home and I was kind of sobbing, like physically. So I don't linger on that question anymore. But, I just see that our political system they don't have that motivation to make it happen, because it defeats their purpose, so I don't have an answer, but I think that's how I rest it.
I was saying the devil's advocate to me will be like, the reason why you're looking at the UK as really grand is because they've profited off of the riches of our nations, right? When they looted and plundered all of our artwork, our resources. So UK is as great because, African countries are still paying for that new colonization. But I'm just a cynical person. So anyways, that's neither here nor there.
You're not being cynical. I think that it is the truth. Yesterday I was watching, and I spent about 2 hours watching a documentary on YouTube, and this is one of my pastimes. That's how I relax. I watched a documentary about King Leopold from Belgium and what he did to plunder Congo. I stopped watching it.
They even plundered the massacres and all that. Yeah.
No, he massacred 10 million Congolese people. 10 million.
Yeah.
And then the population of Belgium was less than 2 million. And he cut off the hands of. I mean, look, I don't want to.
Hands and breasts.
It's gruesome.
Yeah,
it's gruesome stuff.
And then how many Africans even know that history? We're not taught in school about this, but we know about Hitler. How many people do you have to kill to make, relevance like Hitler or Stalin?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You see, But the same question also goes to the thing that have happened within us by ourselves. For example, how many Nigerians know about Biafra? It's our civil war. We have to talk about it. You know, it's the same thing. 3 million, almost. I mean, I think more than a million of the estimates are a bit different because we don't have really official numbers. The estimates are more than a million Igbo people. I mean, Southerners were killed during Biafra, and we don't have that history. But why do we not have it? It's not the fact that it's not the British who took it out of our history. You know, it's not them. Even in Igbo land, it is not taught. You know, it's not taught. Biafra is not taught. So I think it has to do with something about we as a people. And I think that it's important because our morals and our norms were always orally transmitted from generation to generation. And we have not really incorporated that documentation into the way our lifestyle in that sense. We're not people who really document.
But you see, the thing is, the oral transmission is a form of documentation. It is a form of documentation. It's not. I understand what you're saying. It's not as
foolproof.
Long. It's yes, exactly, and it can be lost a bit more easily. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a form of documentation, and in some ways that was destroyed as well. That was part of. So when you kill 10 million people in a country, who is what you've killed all the stories.
Yeah, the wise people. Yeah. The wisdom of the wise.
Because a lot of people killed.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not different from going to. It's not different from when was it the Romans or who was it that burnt the Library of Alexandria, which was supposed to be like the greatest.
Yeah.
And like tomorrow, we don't know what knowledge has been lost.
Yeah.
When that library was destroyed. Do you get what I mean?
True.
So even if it was in books, the point, and I'm bringing up that library to say that if it was written down, doesn't mean it can still be destroyed. Do you know what I mean?
Very true.
But I hear you. The thing I was going to say though is something I found because I had the same thing about the punctuality thing when I came to the UK, and I looked it up because I had a theory about it, and my theory was right. So one of the theories that I have is that ultimately people are not different. Everybody is the same. And what changes is the systems that are built. And then the historical accidents by which they come about those systems. Well, the historical accidents and the choices, but there's a lot of role that, things shaping up in a certain way play. And then people respond to those things. And then that's what leads to where we are today. And a very good example of that is most people don't know this. A lot of English people don't even know this. But you can look it up. The reason punctuality is such a thing in the West, and it's not just, it's a Western thing, but it's because of trains.
Trains?
Yes.
What?
Because of trains. Because of trains specifically. So when trains, you see it now.
No. Well, I have an alternate explanation, but yeah, go ahead.
No. It's not my explanation. This is like documented. This is like the document because it wasn't always like this, right? It wasn't always like this. But then they had the Industrial Revolution. They had the trains, and then with trains, a train has to arrive at a particular. For the train to run well, you have to know when it's coming and when it's leaving. And then once that became a thing. Once you have, and obviously there weren't as many trains now, so once you have to meet the train at 4:30, then whatever you are doing, you have to be at the train station by 4:30 because the train is leaving at 4:30. But then that means that whatever meeting you are having before you get to the train, if the person doesn't come on time, you're still going to have to leave on time because the train is not going to wait for you. And so it filtered from the trains into the culture and then became a cultural thing. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, look, I feel that
this is not my theory. So to be clear, this is
I understand.
My theory.
I don't think
I'm saying this is like the documentation of like what happened. But I'm saying the reason why the theory I had was that it wasn't because they were different. It was that something would have, because I know that historically it wasn't always like this. And so for me it was like, what changed and when did it change? And then I looked it up and then I found out that, actually, it started with the trains.
But I mean, and I understand that, you know, and I'm very happy that, you know, we have a set of people who kind of keep, you know, they go back and research. At what point did we make the change, and what do we think are the factors that were responsible? And I quite agree that may be the reason. But in our case, I mean, I always turn the light towards us, our people. Do we think that if we invented the trains, all right, and you know, and the same thing that happened back home, we would make that adjustment so that they will not become punctual people? I don't think so. I think that, you know, I feel that as a culture, because of how and who we are, all right, here, you know, for example, it does not matter to a bus driver who lives here if the person who is walking to him, most bus drivers, maybe not all of them, who is walking to meet up with the bus is running helter-skelter to get to the bus, or is an old person who is trying to get to the bus stop. Once he gets to that bus stop and there is nobody there, he goes. It is not the same. I think the way the Africans look at themselves, we're communal people. We're not very independent oriented in that sense, like people here. Maybe some other cultures, you know, in the West, I don't know. But because we're very communal as Africans, you know, if you see someone who is rushing to meet you at the bus, all right, he's left his house, he's rushing towards, and you can see him here, the bus driver is just going to leave. You're not there. He's not there at that time. He's going. If you are an adult, an 80-year-old person who wants to drop, and you want to get out of the bus, you know, even, I mean, when you're in Lagos, you see that the old woman can say, my son, do you mind, please drop me here? You know, he doesn't want to get to the bus stop because it's going to take her a long time to get back home. An average African will oblige and stop you there because we have that respect. We have that communal, you know, feeling. We respect other people. When you have those kinds of things in your culture, it will be hard for you to take hard stances on time, on being, you know, this is how it is, this is how it's supposed to be. I feel that we as a people as well, it could be it could be a strength, but I also feel that because we have lived in this for so long, it has not really helped us. The other reason I adduce for this punctuality thing, and this may be a joke, but it kind of just almost makes sense, is that, look, when you tell an African the watch and timing and measurement of time with the sundial and all of that existed long ago amongst this Western culture, and maybe even amongst the Egyptians. But I feel for an African, you know, when I say I'm going to see you in the morning, in the morning means anytime before the sun is high up in the skies. You know what I mean? Anytime before the sun is really high up. And if I'm going to meet you in the afternoon, it means anytime between when the sun is high up and between when the sun goes down. So when you talk about I'll see you in the afternoon for an African, it's a range. It's not a specific time. If I say I'm going to see you in the morning, it's not a specific time, it's a range. I feel that, I mean, I'm not sure if it is true, and this is not any peer-reviewed anything, it's just a thought that it's possible that's... So when you say 8 o'clock in the morning, an African is like, if I meet you at 9 o'clock, what's the difference between 8 and 9? It's probably the same, you know, but...
And I think that I think, you know, punctuality to me feels like a social construct, and there's so many cultural undertones, like the way Japanese are versus, you know, Kenyans, you know, timing.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Japan, they will say if you're 5 minutes, you know, early, you're already late, you know, to like meetings. But like Kenyans just have like a diffuse, you know, element of time. And I have a friend who's Japanese, shout out to Yuka, by the way, married to a Kenyan, and they always have that conversation about timing. Now, enough about trains. My goodness, what so happens when you have, you know, two men on the podcast talking about trains and whatnot?
No, when you have Ayomide.
I know. If it's not Marvel, it's Apple, it's trains. My goodness, I mean, it's not even your birthday. I'm doing all of these things for you. Let's go down the dark side, because that's why I'm here on the show, to kind of take you guys, you know, down that lane. Talking about immigration, usually when people leave, you know, like countries like ours, like countries that are different as far as more economically developed, is a thing of good news, like, oh, you're advancing as aware. But I'm beginning to just see the tragedy, the loss, the parts we don't really talk about, right? And I think what really highlighted it for me was, you know, a recent loss in my family and having to grieve in an isolated way, right? And even raising kids now, I'm having to be more intentional about the community I'm building for my daughter. Because whereas being an adult, I can get away with so many things. But as you're raising a child, you want them to be in a communal setting with people that share values that you really live by. So what are some of the things you've learned about living in Nigeria? Because I imagine there's been a lot of changes for you, right? I'm really curious to know what your response to that was.
A lot. I mean, and I'll just kind of divide them, to be very brief, into, career, family, ministry, and friendships. All right. Career-wise, I mean, I came here. One of the
sounds like a lot of losses.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, because it's in different different directions, different aspects. I came here just kind of get better at my career. But I mean, working in the NHS, and training in the NHS is not really what it is like back home. In the sense that, of course, you're progressing. You know when you're going to finish. You're not going to be talking about strikes that often. Of course, even though there's a BMA strike that is imminent. But you know that things are going to move. You get all the things that you have to work with. You are getting all the resources, and you're not just having head knowledge. But I miss the Ayomide will bear me witness with this one. How stuffy a physician back home in Nigeria is. As a trainee in Nigeria, the whole.
Do you want to explain what stuffy means? Because
so please explain stuffy, because when I say stuffy,
so I mean,
stuffy sounds like they are uptight.
I'm the audience, sorry.
Okay, so let me. So it means that you've got loads of stuff, knowledge, all right, in different regards, in different respects. Yeah, you are very loaded with information, even if it's not particularly your field of specialization. You still quite know a lot. That training here does not, it's not that intense, because there's no deliberate effort to ingrain those knowledge into you. You are more practical. You are doing stuff. You do things to be able to move, patients on, and that's it. That's number one. Family wise, in terms of the community you have, you want to have a birthday for a. We recently had our baby, who's 5 months today, incidentally, and we had a naming ceremony that was on Zoom. I mean, you time everybody's happy to see the child. And then we used to have like people just back, people are dropping names from like as if they're dropping, So that's not there. Community wise, I've not attended a single wedding ceremony in this country, and I've been here 3 years, so there's not so much of socials for me, especially because of work as well. So it's in different regards. What's the last one? Family, career, communion, friendship, church as well. I mean, I was already very, rooted in a church, and then I've come here. I've probably been to church. I might be able to count on, how many times I've been to church, in the last 3 years. Of course, no thanks to the coronavirus. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. But then, yes. So there's a lot, that sense of homeliness. I mean, but I still love it here in totality, but those aspects are missing. They're missing, and you can't. I don't know how you can get that back, but just move on with it.
So I suppose the question I would ask, which is sort of following on from there, is, how are you trying to resolve those questions? And I'm going to ask this of you because it's something I've personally had to deal with, right? Especially the question of community. Tolani and I have talked before the previous episode about my own challenges in that area. With and how I read an article. I don't know if you listen to this particular episode, but I read an article which I saved because those are important ideas.
Middle age, hint.
Shush. And it was about how men tend to have fewer friends than women, but then especially as they get older. And so, they found out that, that studies of men who were like, I can't remember if it was 30, but I think it was 40 and up, would sometimes not even have friends at all, or they would have lost a number of the friends that they did. And obviously, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have like, tens of friends or anything. But even if it's just having that one or two really intimate friends that you maintain and you sustain over years or decades, was something that turns out to be something that men seem to not have as much as women did. And so I suppose, the question for me is that something you've been thinking about? And especially here, because, as we all find when we come here, relating with people is different. It's more individualistic. It's less communal. And then there's also the cultural translation, isn't there, of figuring out, okay, there's a way you're used to relating with people, and half of it is read wrongly. And so you have to figure out new ways. But you're not so young. So you're figuring out new ways at like, in your 30s,
I mean, I'm still young, so please don't include me in that demographic. Thank you.
But you understand what I mean? Like, I think people tend to underestimate how difficult it can be, like figuring out new ways of relating, that are different from all the ways you've learned over 30 plus years of life.
Yeah.
So basically,
having to over-communicate, because you could get away with so much.
Over-communicating is, yes.
Yeah.
Even things like humor, because I like to joke,
I know.
Right? And then I have to. Well, I still joke a lot, but I've had to learn how to joke in culturally appropriate ways, right? And learn which jokes were culturally appropriate in one culture that don't play in a different culture. So my question is, how are you? But I'm asking mainly about the relational bit. How are you navigating that? Is it something you're doing something about? Is it something you're still thinking about? What progress have you made? Where do you think you're struggling?
Yeah, Henry, I really need the answer to this question because it's really in the thick of things, being a middle-aged man. So your question will really help him. Your answer will really help him. Thank you.
So help it, bro.
I'm not sure if I've got your answer, but the thing is, so for me, because I found that I discovered, so it wasn't something I did to make it happen. I found out I could be some kind of a people's magnet. So people, I just find myself in the midst of people somehow, somehow I just have that. And so when I got here, so for example, so let me just give a quick example. I got to the new job I've been at for the past 1 year. And then I found out that we have so many Nigerians there who were just all scattered, like, nobody was a central figure to which you could, bond or ask things, and they had a WhatsApp group, and everyone who was on that WhatsApp group, who started a WhatsApp group, had moved away from that neighborhood, but they still were there. The new guys who came in didn't know themselves. None of them was admin, and they were just all scattered in different. And I was wondering, what's going on? Why are we like this? Why are we just all scattered together in different places? So I started now introducing people to people, like, oh, hi, Sean, this is Shade. Chinedu, this is, like that. So just easily made that transition. I have a friend who lives not too far away. He lives about 22 minutes away from me. We lived together in Lagos, Nigeria. We attended the same church. And then when we got here, somehow, incidentally, he was in Kent, I was in London. And then I moved to Norfolk, and he as well moved to Norfolk because his wife's got a job here and I got a job here. And then we become really very good friends. We see each other. We talk at least twice or thrice a week now. And then it's like video calls late in the night. So for that, somehow, I've been able to navigate that. I have someone who I speak to regularly, who is my friend. They come over to our house. We go over to their house. But for most other people, and the people who are, let's say, non-Nigerians, it's just a sense of just being available and helpful. That's what has helped me, in the sense that, so I play a lot and I have a lot of influence or reach amongst Nigerians because I am playful and also helpful at work. All right. It somehow makes people, it somehow endears me to them in a sense that I am able to make connections with them in different, at different times with different things, and then they get to speak about different things. So somehow, because of just the fact that I reach out, I talk to them, I want to help to do something, I feel that it doesn't make me feel that I'm losing out so much on the community that I had back home. Because even that community back home, because of work, even though I would have family events like weddings and the rest, they were more like for my family, extended family. But as far as friends were concerned, a lot of my friends had traveled out of the country, so you weren't even getting those friendship, meetings as much. But so now that I'm here, I'm making friends. In fact, one of the things I did with trying to joke was to start watching EastEnders, right, and Coronation Street, because I needed to understand what was a joke amongst them. Because sometimes people are joking and they are smiling, they are laughing. I'm like, I don't get the joke. I'm lost here. But because of who I am, I will just smile like, yeah, that's cool. And try to just, what's that? I'm sorry. I could be very vain like that. I'm just like, oh yeah.
So wait, have you been faking your laughs with us, Harry?
No. See, this is real. This is me. You know me. You've always known me. This is what I was in real life.
I can't.
Let me tell you what really happened when I first got here. When I first got here, I couldn't really pick the accent. The accents were, they were speaking English, and I'm like half of what they said, especially if they had a Scottish accent. Welsh. No, I wouldn't say what. I just go like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, all right. And I kid you not, until I discovered that I had wax in my ears.
So you had a legit excuse.
This was not where I was expecting this to go.
As in, literally. Literally, he was very deaf.
I'm serious.
But wait, you could hear Yoruba and other English, but because of the wax, you couldn't hear their own accent, but you could hear everything else. Oh my God.
Selective wax.
It was so bad that they would say stuff and I'll just smile and say, yeah. I'm like, yeah. Until someone else said, oh, this is what you said. I'm like, no, I didn't mean, no, that's not, I didn't mean yes for that one. I was talking about, yeah. But like I said, it was just me being deliberate about reaching people, talking to them, helping them out. That's how somehow I've kind of built a community. And everywhere I go, I drag all Nigerians together. Somehow, I just kind of drag them together. That's what I do. It works for me very well.
Yeah.
And then I also interact a lot with a lot of all the other different staff. I speak to cleaners. I speak to everyone. I just try to call their names. I'm someone who likes to learn people's names and call them when I see them. So everyone, I've met cleaners who, not just cleaners. Nobody's, there's labor there's dignity in all labor.
Custodial staff.
People like to hear, know that they are recognized not just as, what they do, but for who they are.
Because actually, a lot of them are invisible. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And especially here, because of the way things are set up here. Because I remember when I first came, someone mentioned to me that this was after I spent a month in my first job, and I was asking for feedback because I was like, look, I'm not going to assume anything. Tell me what I'm doing okay. Tell me what I need to work on. And someone, among the things they said was, basically they said, oh, we think you're doing okay. We think you're doing really well. And the one of the things they said was, and you say hi to everyone, including even the cleaners. And I remember thinking,
that's supposed to be normal. But
that's normal, right? And then I started paying attention. I realized no, that doctor was doing it.
Yeah.
You guys are weird in the UK. In the US, it's not a problem. Of course, we have our racism and all that, but people interact.
Yeah.
Again, this is what you get when you get snotty people up in a country called the United Kingdom. Anyways. I think my next question again around the issue of intentionality is one thing to approach yourself from your home country and move somewhere else. Is another thing to take your family with you, right? So you're married, you have kids. How has that been like? Given that your kids, I think they're like over 10, or maybe they're enough to know we've made a big move, right? How's that been like, and how have they been adjusting, and have you been able to build a community that can at least at best mimic what you had in Nigeria? Because one of the things I miss about, coming from Nigeria is that social cohesiveness where, and I think I already mentioned an example of, you have interactions with people all day long. Even if you're introvert or extrovert, they will get in your face. And I really miss that intrusion. How cute to be able to talk to my neighbor and not having to like enter my house through my garage and I don't see anybody. So again, your wife and kids, how has the adjustment been, and what are some tips you can provide to parents considering that move that you did?
So thank you very much, Mo, for that question. So when I first came, I came and I was here for like 5 months before my family came in. So in that period of time, I tried to just look for schools for them. And one of the greatest issues I had with the school was, would my son be the only black, student in this school? And how is that going to affect him? Is that going to affect him? And I wasn't sure if it was going to affect him or not, if he was going to notice the difference. And he came in, he was 5 years old when he came in. So he's 8 now. My daughter is 5 and my little boy is 5 months. So the person who I was most concerned about was my wife, because I knew my kids would go into school and they have not been taught color. They are colorblind initially. I mean, colorblind in the sense that they do not feel, oh, I am black, and they are, they just feel like they're all kids, So I'm grateful for that. That they made that transition very quickly. But because they're kids, they relate to their friends. And my son is very like he's my carbon copy better than I am, but he's my, he's very helpful. And that's the thing they talk about most at school. He's very polite. He's very friendly. He reaches out. He talks to everyone. He teachers, everyone, head teachers and the rest. So I didn't have an issue with him because I felt that he will have that sense of community. My daughter as well. My daughter is the one that will challenge me. He's the one that tells me why. If I say, do not do this, my son will say, yes, daddy. My daughter will say, why? Like she is 5. She came to this country. She was just 3.
I like her.
I'm telling you. So I knew, and she's the one they say, she said, I have these 3 girls in class who like to be bosses, but they're not the boss of me. That's the first time I will hear, like, you're not the boss of me. Like, that's my daughter. So the only person I really had an issue, I thought, in terms of mixing, my wife is introverted, as you know. And so I thought, so I am working, I go to work every day. Now she works as, she started an online business. And so I felt she's not going to be interacting with, British people. She's not going to be interacting with people in that sense. She will probably be the only one who is missing out in terms of that, relationship, friendships and stuff like that. But incidentally, somehow we met someone who lives very close to us, who is a Ghanaian and who will approach everyone who is black. Once you're black, he will approach you. And so he was the one who met my wife. And then and we became friends. So and they live about 10 minutes walk away from our house. So they moved closer to us now. And so they have kids. And so we've gathered all the Nigerians who live in Wyndham. Not Nigerians, just, black people who live around there. So we've had hangouts, we go to their house. We can just, and this thing of just dropping people's houses without telling them, we can, because we have that relationship. We can just, we're coming to you. Are you guys home, or we're just branching? So we have stuff. As well as good African stuff. So and I feel that one thing I'll tell people who have moved is, find a community. Make sure that community, we have this sense of standoffishness because we're now here. We don't want people to be, poke nose into my business, and stuff like that. But you have to kind of give your children that opportunity to have that friendships that are, between you and your friends and your families. This my other friend who I said that now lives very close to me. We have like once a month or once every 2 months, we have what you call like a breakfast worship meeting, and we bring all the kids that are here in our house. They see us worshiping, they see us praying, they see us, doing all of that together, joking, eating, and so they grow up feeling that that's my cousin. I'm like, no, he's not your cousin. We're family friends. But so you have to be intentional about it. Find someone who and the first way is to just kind of reach out, talk to them, see how they interact with you first, see how they ask you about stuff. If you see that the person is not the person who's always kind of checking up on you, wants to come to your house, then you know that there are people you might be able to reach out with. Then don't bring them to your house first. Say, let's meet at a hangout, let's meet at a park, but try and make sure that your friends have that sense of, these are my people, and it's really helped us, because when my wife got pregnant, we needed, and I was working very far from home. We needed people to help us to pick the children sometimes when she's so tired, and they were there to help out. There were days that she could not go out to pick them, or she was getting too late, and they will offer to say, Harry, don't worry, I'll come and pick you. I'll come and pick the kids and take them to school and bring them back. But make that move. Find a community. You almost will find. Sometimes some of the friends that we've made are not actually Nigerians or black. They're actually British guys, British people. My wife has a friend. Most of the friends in our area who are white were made by my friend, by my wife. She met them, talked to them, and then our children go to dodgeball together. But I think it's about just making a deliberate effort to give your children that opportunity.
Let me just quickly add that for those of us coming from Nigeria, where a lot of the work seems to be done for us, we're forced to interact. You can't get away with that here. You have to be very intentional. And I like how you highlighted that. And I think it goes to one of the things Ayomide said about, for you to be a friend to somebody, for you to have friends, you have to be a friend, right?
Yes.
And you're the one coming to their country. Friendly. So yes, you need to do a lot of work. And I know it's difficult, especially when you're moving here in your 20s or your 30s or 40s or 50s. It's worth building that community.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people don't know how much toll it has on a family, and you might not know that your children are made. And I think you have to ask your children, ask them, how do they feel? Do they feel happy? What kind of friends do they have in school? Talk to them. Then if you get feedback from their class teachers to see if your children just stay aloof, because it might mean that they have issues relating with those children. You really have to go and find out, because I am lucky that I have a son that's just like me, who will always be outgoing, who is very helpful, who is just, But if you do not have a child that will always be the one to go out and make friends, you need to ask how he's doing. You need to ask how he's doing. Yeah. Who are his friends? Does he have friends in school? Is he happy? Is he happy? Is she happy? That was one of the things that we try to
I mean, that's a good point. It's funny you mentioned that. Yesterday, I sent a voice note to my friend who's in Canada. Shout out to New, by the way. And I lamented about how we're trying to teach our daughter, Yoruba language and a little bit of Korean, but the pressures on us as parents to. I mean, she understands some words here and there, but you know how in Nigeria, if you're speaking a particular language, your mother tongue, you can get exposed to it because we tend to live in geographical, areas that. Are similar to our culture.
Everybody else is speaking it.
It's speaking it, but now I'm gonna be the staff, the kitchen staff, the person in church having to teach her, that language. And I also thought about play dates. I don't know. I know my daughter's friends from daycare, but I don't know their parents. And then she gave me an idea that when she moved to Canada, she had to write a letter to the best friends of her kid, like the parents of her kids' best friends, to organize a play date. And I'm like, I can actually do that. And she said, don't forget to put your phone number. So guess what? I texted my daughter's proprietress from her daycare, and they gave me 3 names. So I'm going to be writing a bombast letter and introducing myself. Let him know where like the best things since and why that date needs to happen, because she needs more of that social interaction. Again, these are some of the intentional things I would never have thought of doing. But again, I'm a parent here now. I have to think outside of the box. I just wanted to add that to, the intentionality poll.
Yeah.
I mean, and really for you, I mean, I understand, because you have that, you're the only one who's going to be speaking that language to them. I mean, it's going to be hard because, I mean, if you speak it every day, you don't speak it, and there's some words that you would not. For example, when was the last time you said the translation of shirt? What's a shirt in Yoruba?
Asho.
Ayomide? No. Asho is
I feel like
it's cloth.
I feel like it's not Asho, but I'm not sure what it is.
It's not Asho.
I can't remember. If I hear it, I'm sure.
You see
that? You see that? Yeah. And because we don't speak it, we are losing some of those things.
Use it or lose it.
And that's it. And that's one of the things we're losing. Yeah, our culture as well. Yes,
we're losing. So it's about and I really think that what you have said about trying out play dates is fantastic. It helps you, bring that social context into childhood, because childhood for us back home there was a lot of social context in it, and you being intentional about it is just the best for your child, because it's not just being in school, because school is school, it's more, and the child is conditioned to think when we go here is to just learn. But when they see that there's that social aspect, it kind of helps their development as well, I think.
Thanks for that. I have not exactly a silly question, but sort of on I don't know, maybe it's a lighter note. I'm curious to know, you mentioned dodgeball earlier on.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure you never played in Nigeria, because I never heard of dodgeball in Nigeria.
My brother, I went to research it too. I just went to go and check it myself. Like, what exactly is dodgeball?
You guys didn't watch the movie way back many years ago. There's a movie about it, dodgeball.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't. No, that's different from playing it.
But it showed. Okay, I know, but I know the sport. I just have never played it. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going, and you something I've been trying to do a bit more, because in a sense, one of the advantages of moving to a different culture, right, is basically the possibility of getting the best of both worlds, of keeping the best of where you're coming from and adding the best of where you are. And some of that is just learning new things, right? So, for instance, I've been learning to cycle, which obviously you can do in Nigeria, but cycling in Lagos.
Are you learning to cycle?
Because I want to. I've always wanted to.
No, as in learning is just like 2 minutes, and then
because I never cycled.
I've had this moment. I can't believe I'm reliving these laughs again. But
I never learned to cycle.
Thank you, Harry, for jogging my moment.
Okay, all right, fine.
I never learned to cycle as a child.
Ayomide takes it seriously, and he's been doing quite well in it, by the way.
The question I want to ask is, what's the thing that you are? What's one thing that you've been learning or are wanting to learn? That's it could be something like cycling that you could always have learned in Nigeria, but it's here that you've decided, okay, I really want to take this thing, as something to get better at. So it doesn't have to be something limited to here, but as long as it's something that was triggered by being here, if you get what I mean.
As I got to this country, the thing which is what I've always believed in, is to live a full life. Like, it's always been on my mind to live a full life. Whatever you can do it. Whatever skill you have, no matter how little it is, explore it. That's how I've always been. But you see, it's so important that I never really did them when I was in Nigeria, because, of course, there was no space, there was no work. I mean, work was hard. Money was involved with being able to do some of these things. So here, I have done every possible thing. I played lawn tennis. I play football. Now, I play football at night, 9 p.m. That's when our football starts. Okay? So I've been playing football. I've been playing lawn tennis. I've been doing
the advantage of having flood. I said the advantage of having floodlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having sunlight.
No,
just
it's sunlight.
No, sunlight, like longer. Yeah.
No.
Longer days now.
Because I know friends who play in pitches where there's actual floodlights.
Yeah, we have floodlights,
so they can play to whenever.
It doesn't really matter.
Which in Nigeria,
we started playing football
for obvious reasons.
I started playing football during the fall, and of course, we used to get. I mean, it's dark by 4:30 p.m. And then we will still go and play football from that time, and we have floodlights definitely. So I've been playing football. I've been doing lawn tennis. I have been painting.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
We need pictures of that to put on.
Yeah, can you send the pictures
show
of
notes,
on the
please?
show notes? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And where people can buy them
painting.
if you're selling them.
Or is it painting with a twist? You sip and paint, or this is just freestyle?
No, I'm just freestyle, just
Nice.
painting.
Ayomide, I know you are
take
good with illustration.
Do you take commissions? I'm saying,
I have not started monetizing my paintings
can
yet.
someone commission you? Oh, Henry, I'd like you to please paint X.
I do not do live. I don't do human portraits. Nope.
No, not live portraits. I'm just saying like commission. Like I have a friend who used to do landscapes of Edinburgh when we're in Edinburgh. Okay. She would do landscapes for people, but she would do it on commission. So she would paint for herself, but she would also paint.
I have not yet at that level. I'm not at that grade yet. Thank you. So yes, I've been playing back. So I've been doing that. I have been doing my writings more now. I've been doing my photography. I mean, I always thought I was a photographer. I'd love to do photography, but I started doing a lot of that photography here because I've got very wonderful landscapes. I've got very beautiful mornings, and winter, summer, spring, fall. Every time I see, and I have an eye for pictures. So most of the time, especially before I started driving, which is the downside of being able to drive. Before now,
sorry, just a second. Tolani, eat your heart out.
And Henry, why did you have to mention that trigger word? You didn't see the way my mood just changed. iPhone.
Henry, please go on.
You're a Samsung person. How do you have iPhone? You're a Samsung person. You cannot say God.
I do not have an iPhone.
You said iPhone.
iPhone for my phone. iPhone. Can you use an iPhone? I do not use an iPhone.
Ayomide, please don't trigger me. No, thank you.
No, please, no.
God is not the author of confusion. No.
My pictures are way better than iPhone pictures. My Samsung pictures are way better than anyone's taken by iPhones. Even the iPhone 13. I've tried my Samsung S20 against the iPhone 13. I'm sorry.
Ayomide knows this, but he's in denial.
I shall tolerate this blasphemy.
He has his flaws.
Because I am magnanimous.
Internet and iPhone, those are the two big flaws Ayomide has that is impeding our friendship being better. But we'll keep praying.
And lastly, I've tried my hand at golf as well. I've done golf. So
all right.
It's just about.
It feels like you're retiring, no? Ayomide, see ideas for you. Future is really bright.
So the thing is, just like I said, I feel that humanity, being alive is about experiences. It's about exposure to things. And if you are going to be someone who will say you can say, I have lived a full life. It means that you have really put your hands in a lot of things. You have interacted, you have joined committees, you have held leadership positions, you have done sports, you have done adventures, you have done, high risk, maybe like skydiving or bungee jumping. You have gone, scuba diving. It's about you living the life for you to be able to know where your flair is, for you to be able to discover. Because I feel that, the people who have invented stuff, a lot of that is not directly from the knowledge of that science or where they are. It's about all the different knowledge that you have picked up from probably cooking or from adventure or from leadership positions. Those things add to your body of knowledge, and somehow it just cooks inside you. You need, just like when you need, you don't eat protein and say, I want this amino acid to go and join another amino acid to produce a muscle in me. You just eat. You just put them in. What happens is your body takes them, finds out which amino acid needs to go with another amino acid, and eventually it produces a muscle for you, or it produces a cell for the tongue, or it produces a neuron.
You've lost half of our audience with this amino acid just mentioned now. What
I'm saying is that the nutrients you eat go as whole ones and they get digested, and the body decides how to put them together to form whether it's a muscle you need or it's a tissue you need. The same way, all the experiences you bring and put into your heart, into your life, have a bearing on your eventual production, who you are, what perspective to life is, and stuff like that. So I involve myself in every and anything. I've tried to learn a language. That's the one I've not really done very well. my son has taken over my Spanish Duolingo.
You and me both.
And shout out to Tolani. I am so impressed about your Korean. Like,
get that language going.
How could you have picked a harder language as far as I'm concerned? I mean, with symbols. I mean, even alphabets are symbols, but yes.
Tolani is shaking her head in and speak at the moment.
She's basking in her pride.
She's bobbing her head like those little you know those figurines.
The hula loop lady
on the dashboards of the cars.
Yes. With dust everywhere. I mean, and I guess even though when I was talking, Henry, by the way, that was a very robust response, and thanks for reminding us of the simpler pleasures of life. I know when I first of all talked about things we've lost, moving from Nigeria to the US to the UK, I think some of the things you've talked about, some of the things you've gained as well, and I think the vast difference is how a lot of us back home in Nigeria were in survival mode. So rest is like a luxury, because if you don't work, you don't literally eat, we don't get paid, and I know in the UK, for example, you're forced to rest because you have to use up your vacation days, right? Like here in the US, where it's ultra capitalistic. And but I guess the onus is on us to really, wherever you might be, find a way to rest. Now, I'm gonna shift the gear of the conversation a little bit, which is something that I have to do. If I don't do it, who will? Will be you're super accomplished. A medic, a father, a husband, and your leadership roles.
Super accomplished.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's touch your horn. It's okay. We can touch your horn. I've served on a couple of missionary. I think our trip to Sierra Leone was really. I would say that was like a pivotal moment in our friendship.
Oh yes, lovely.
I could really, from Koindu and Moyamba and all that. I want to ask you this unpopular question. On the outside, I think your height also gives you that presence that opens the room, and you have that commanding presence, even without even saying something. The look on your face, your welcoming look, and all those are really good attributes to have. But along the issues of just flaws, what are some of the things you're struggling with, if you're able to share? Because anyone looking at your flyer, your picture on the flyer, they already see all these things and the glowing accomplishments. How do you stay humble? Like, what are some things that will make us not get so green with envy when it comes to, thinking about Henry? Oh my gosh, the Henry. Does that make sense?
I can start reeling them off, like that, number
Please
one,
do, so we can have something to talk about when you're not there. Thank you.
So, I think the most important one right now, and I have had a running battle with it over and I'll start and stop, is procrastination. Oh gosh. Procrastinating. I am like, I feel like I've become master's level procrastinator. And so I need to have prompts that help me move from this level and get to the next thing. I procrastinate a lot. And last year I thought I'd overcome it because I started doing ththings in time. I had a calendar. I started putting everything on my calendar, and it really helped me. So every time I have to call someone, I put it on my calendar and put a time to it. So I'll get an alarm to do it. But I've kind of fallen off that wagon now. So that's one, procrastinate a lot. Number two is I don't really take very good care of my pennies, if I can put it that way. That's the other thing. If you take care of your penny, your pounds will take care of themselves, or you mean cents and dollars, whatever it is that you say. I don't look after my money in that sense. I've not done any financial, go after these finance things, look at how much I have, how can I get more money and stuff like that. I just kind of it's all right. I just work. I feel I'm just someone who just work, make money, provide a service, and just pay me, and that's it. Why are you laughing? What's funny now? I'm telling you, this is a flow. Don't laugh, it's horrible.
No.
About it. I'm telling you.
If I tell you why I'm laughing, it'll be silly. Sorry.
I'm going to say it.
You have to say it. We're going to take it off, but you have to say it.
Earlier when you said you are not taking care of your pennies, it sounded like something.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh god!
And I knew not only did I hear that, and I knew what you meant, but I knew what it sounded like, and I knew Tolani was thinking the exact same thing. And then
I'm like, Harry, I know you should share, but don't scare us. I'm like, no, it can't be that, because Harry will not be talking about that here. So that's how I was dying.
Also,
Sorry.
it's a very different message.
And then plus, of course it makes sense, because you
It's a
guys
very
are
different kind of flaw.
I'm like, well, like, this is deep. I know it's to stay to share, but that's really deep. Like,
Oh god! Okay. Oh no. No.
Let's come back to the line.
Please.
I know. I mean, I knew it wasn't what you were
Alright.
talking about, but
So to be clear, we knew exactly what you were talking about.
it's
It's just the possibility of what else it could have been was just hilarious to pass off.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it is. Yeah. Now I see it. Yeah, that.
And then saying pounds after all wasn't even helpful. I'm like, okay, yeah. But anyways, I need Jesus more. That's just the moral of the story.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sprinkle all of this with.
Sorry,
We're listening to you, like, about,
we're listening to you, honestly. We just
really.
Yeah. But I mean, I was just like,
we couldn't hold it.
So I think those are really the major ones. It's about those being procrastinating was very important, and then watching my finance really is something that I need to really pay a lot of attention to. I just work and my wife is very into make small money. I almost said the same but yeah, make small money and turn it over. I want to make big money at once. All right, and I feel that I just want to provide a service, because I can't start making kobo, save this kobo, save that kobo. No, I don't do that. So, but I think I need to pay more attention to that. What else? I think those are the major ones. There are a few other here and there, things, that I can say, but that's the ones that really come to mind big time. And I feel that those are the things I really need to work on at this time.
I mean, that's very humbling. I try being very open about things you're going through. And like you, I think what's really helped me personally is, being married to someone like Taiwo. He's very money conscious. I mean, I would never go in debt and borrow against what I'm winning, but saving and the future and all that was always like a remote concept to me. And I think one of the things I wanted to say about that is, even though we're not quite good at this, you can also supplement it. So we have a financial advisor who helps, with our portfolio and all that. So you can always outsource those kind of things out, because that money as a Christian is very important, because we're supposed to be steward and, use that wisely. So all I'm just saying is that even though you don't have it, it's okay that you're able to acknowledge that deficiency, as it were, but you can definitely supplement that and go from there.
Yeah, I think I really need a financial advisor. So because I wouldn't borrow, but just saving and planning for the future, that I've not really caught on with, and I feel that I need help in that regard, particularly.
And finally,
I just want to say
sorry, hold on quickly. You're in a new system that is different. It's a different system you're working with. UK system. You have to think about the future of your kids. It's not back home where you can get by with so many things, right? So it's more important. Yeah.
Very
and I was just going to say that I think one thing that a lot of Nigerians, actually not just Nigerians, a lot of people from non-Western countries struggle with is the the whole thing about credit and credit scores and all this stuff. And I think we have an aversion to the idea of debt. And one of the things that it takes a while to learn is learning to use debt smartly. Because actually that it burns you when you don't do that. You know what I mean? So, but I mean that's a whole other conversation.
I checked my credit score
with regards
and I was surprised. I saw my credit score, like, wow.
Is
like,
that
this
good
is
surprise
really
or
nice.
bad surprise? Okay.
No, good surprise. Like amazing surprise. I thought my credit score was going to be like down in the baskets, but no, it was. And I'm like,
good for you.
Yeah, it's but I'm like, it's just credit score. I want more money in my account. Not just
that's
credit
social,
score.
but that credit score, that's social credibility, like right there, something.
But that credit score matters to everything else.
Exactly.
It matters to everything else.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, really.
And with regards to procrastination thing, I think that's always going to be a challenge. And maybe this brings us back to the whole thing of time, because something I've been thinking a lot about is, so for me, one thing I try to keep in mind is that actually, or a way I try to think about things is that instead of looking at things as this is good and this is bad, I like to look at things more from what are the strengths and weaknesses of this and what are the strengths and weaknesses of this other thing. Because I think that's more nuanced than just good, bad, which is so simplistic and not really true to reality, because the reality is that things are complex. And for me, one of those things has to do with time and with the question of the flexibility with which we approach time in our cultures, right? And then the strictness, the rigidity with which time is approached in Western cultures. Yeah. And again, I think there's a tendency for a lot of Nigerians to think, oh, this is good. Everything is punctual. And the rigidity is good. And I'm like, no, it's just a way. And instead of seeing it as this is good and this is bad, more like actually the flexibility has its place, the rigidity has its place. And then, and for me, and all of this comes back to the point of procrastination, because, for me, it's a question of, because the thing about flexibility is that actually the reason why flexible time matters is because of relationships. You cannot run relationships on rigid time.
Yeah.
You cannot run relationships on efficiency. Efficiency and growth are mutually exclusive. Do you see what I mean? Like, if you're going to maximize growth, you cannot maximize efficiency. If you want your child to learn things, you're going to have to be content with them being done badly for a while until if you just say, well, no, it needs to be done perfectly, then they'll never learn it because they're just going to do it. That sort of thing. So I think with regards to procrastination, I think something is that's worth thinking about is, when is this procrastination and when is this me trying to fit everything into rigid time? Because actually, I think sometimes some of what we think of as procrastination is actually is because I'm trying to fit into rigid time, and maybe some of this stuff
should not be
should not be put in rigid time. I need to be more flexible with it.
Yeah. And I guess, and in addition to what he said about just, I think being a man of varied interests, you might tend to want to spend more time on things because you have so many things you're doing, right? But time is such a finite concept, 24 hours in a day. How do you fit all of that in? Yeah. So I guess giving more grace to yourself and understanding that, it's a different culture, but just having fun as you go along the way. In any event, Henry, we can actually keep talking to you. The laugh I had today actually fell on my chair, just laughing the next minute. I've not had that. I've never had to leave my chair while I was recording. Thank you for the memory. I know. It's a great episode when we didn't say
that word, that plural, never.
Like I said, it says pen and it says pound. Yeah. Look at this.
I can stay with the singular, but
maybe emphasize like penis. I should start even talking about that because it's actually sounding like it. Anyways, and that's even worse. Yeah, I was like, no emphasis.
To be fair, one has an S sound and one has a Z sound.
Penis.
If you so that's.
Except if you're Yoruba, penis.
And then the other one is I would call it penis, not.
Yeah. So the way we pronounce it in Nigeria, that's the way it sounds. The real pronunciation is P. It's actually
penis. Yeah. Why you guys not saying the word? You're doctors. Just use the P word. Anyways, why are you skirting around the issue? No pun intended. I was saying
I
that,
feel like this episode will have to be marked as explicit now.
As in, right? I've never had to use it. Okay, I've used it twice, but it's just as well. Rated PG. But I was saying that, it's a good episode when, not like good. I was coming in confidently because, no, it's Henry, right? But we didn't send you questions beforehand. And it just shows how really comfortable we are talking to you. Because usually when we have new guests that we haven't really gotten to know very well, we need to help them because they're like, oh, you're going to be asking me. But I want to just thank you for even coming in bravely, given it was your first time. But thank you. This was really fun. Just hearing about your life, your move, things you're currently working on, and your emphasis on community, and even practical tips on how to be very intentional about engaging people and showing that hand of friendship first. And reminding us that it's never too late to start building new roots and, forming new patterns. And then finally, about some of the things
or to learn golf.
To learn golf, right? Or dodgeball, as it were. Yeah. Just want to say thank you. This has been I didn't expect anything short of what we've had so far, but it really blew my mind. Just the ease of talking to you. It was almost like we've been talking for the past how many years, but just want to say thank you so much. It's really been fun having you on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I hope it was worth it eventually because, I didn't know what to expect, but then I knew that it was Ayomide and Mo. Look,
Given your first time, how was it?
And I'm happy that.
Given your first time, how was it?
It's.
I remember why you're laughing. I remember has an agenda. I remember why you're laughing. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's because I already have a relationship with you guys already. I knew you before now. So if I have, if the hosts are different, like I didn't know them before, I'll be trying to see where they're coming from. When I'm trying to answer, but because you already know my background, you know who I am, how it, and then we've talked, and we know you
a
very good first time, and.
Anyways,
so I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you very much for inviting me to your show, and I really had fun. And talking about this, things I've talked about now, I've not really articulated them before now, but
you did so well. It's Henry, of course. Well, guys, this was the episode with Dr. Henry Olamiju and myself, Ayomide as well. We just want to say thank you for catching this episode. Don't forget to check previous episodes of the podcast, and if there are more ways you like for us to support you on the show by exploring topics or suggested guests, reach out to us via email, talktomo@mosible.com, or on our Instagram page, The More Sibyl Podcast. Well, this has been Mo and
Ayomide.
And catch you guys on another episode of the More Sibyl Podcast. Harry, this was fun. We'll let you know when the episode comes out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And have yourself a great weekend.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
And I know it's almost midnight, so you need to go.
Yeah, it's going to take care of your 5-month-old baby.
Yes, they've been waiting for me now.
It's 5 months and a day almost now.
That's true.
To tell them.
Yeah.
To tell them about my show, the show I've attended.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
that's really nice.
All right, thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, take care. Yeah, cheers.
Bye.
Okay, bye.